Welcome to everyone who's joined us, and for those who've joined us from around the globe, we have got delegates with us today from the UK, South Africa and Singapore. I am Chairman of the South African Chamber of Commerce in the UK, and we have with us Keridyn Heatlie, who is from the Singapore South African Chamber of Commerce. You will hear from her shortly. This is our 8th in the series of Black Empowerment webinars that we've been doing. We started them in about this time last year and really find it very informative. We have good attendance rates on all these webinars as we go through the different topics. Thank you very much, everybody. At this point in time, I'm going to hand over to Keridyn. Keridyn is my double in the Singapore Chamber of Commerce. She's very involved in the bilateral trade that Singapore Chamber is promoting for South Africa, as well as being of relevance and important to South Africans in the Singapore region. She comes from the Northwest University with a BCom degree in tourism, management and recreation. And she's actually spent some time in the Kruger Park part of the world. I'm so jealous. And she's worked with corporate clients. She's got involved in the BEE part of the world, and she's passionate about building a better South Africa through transformation and impact sourcing. So, Keridyn, can I ask you please just to introduce the South African Chamber, please?
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you for the introduction. Really excited to be here. So as Sharon mentioned, I run the South African Chamber of Commerce for Singapore. I've been working for them for about 2-3 years. And our main vision and objective is to enable trade, investment, and finance between Southeast Asia and South Africa. So we aim to bridge the gap in what we like to call sort of an ecosystem, where you would have individuals, businesses, and government. Normally, those three entities would work separately from each other. We aim to connect them and almost fast pace the business expansion into the two countries, between the two countries. I think this is a very important webinar for our community that's joined from Singapore today. So good afternoon and thank you for joining. This is for the individuals in Singapore, the companies in Singapore looking to expand into South Africa. I think this will be extremely informative and help provide some really important guidelines around this BBBEE in South Africa. So I'm really excited and thank you for the opportunity. Please check out our website at www.sham.sg and contact me for more details. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Keridyn, known as Kerry to all of us. Thank you very much for the introduction and for the hard work that the Singapore Chamber does, as all South African chambers do. I'd now like to introduce Arlene Wilson-Max, who is a BBBEE specialist, well known to the Chamber, and has been running all these events for us, and now under the guise of being part of the South African Chamber of Commerce UK Exco. So welcome, Arlene. You have a very diverse background. She comes from business, skills development. Arlene, if there's anything else you particularly want to focus on, please do so now. But I'm going to hand over to you to run the rest of our 1 hour.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and hello to everyone. Okay, let's get started. So today we're going to be focusing on the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act, and we'll be unpacking the skills development element of the scorecard. Right, so basically this is what a BBBEE scorecard looks like. And these are the kind of points that a company can get or earn by from the contributions that they make when they implement BBBEE, right? So under ownership elements, the points are 25 points, management control 19 points, skills development, which I've highlighted in peach, is because it's the element that we are focusing on today. And under this element, you get 20 points plus 5 bonus points. Enterprise and supplier development is 42 plus 4 bonus points. And socio-economic development is 5 points. Focusing specifically on skills development, I'm now going to take you through the skills development scorecard. Now, in the skills development scorecard, you have two different sections of the skills development scorecard. The first section which is what we refer to as 2.1.1, which is skills development expenditure. And if I just quickly flip to the second portion, it's 2.1.2. So these are the two areas that I'm going to be taking you through, and 2.1.3, right? Now, under 2.1.1, the first point says, skills development expenditure on Black people as a percentage of your leviable amount. Your target is 3.5%, and from this, you can earn 6 points. So I know it looks complicated, but it's quite simple. You take 3.5% of your leviable amount. Let's say your leviable amount is 100 Rand. So you would say 3.5% of 100 Rand, and then you would know how much you're supposed to spend on training and skills development on people, on Black people. Okay. For bursaries under 2.1.1.2, it says bursaries for students at higher education institutions, and your stipends do count. You need to look at your 2.5% of your leviable amount, and you spend that amount on students at higher education institutions. Okay? And if you pay them, let's say, a transport allowance or a stipend to help them to get from home to the university for school every time, then that does count. You can add that to the amount of the 2.5%. 2.1.1.3 says skill development expenditure on Black disabled employees as a percentage of leviable amount. Again, let's say your leviable amount is 100 Rand. So you would say 0.3% of 100 Rand. Then that is the amount that you would need to spend. That's a contribution that you would need to make towards skills development expenditure on Black disabled employees as a percentage of your leviable amount. Within the scorecard, we actually have something called a learning program matrix, and I will show it to you in my next few slides. But in the learning program matrix, we have what is called category F and category G. And these are limited to 25% of total value of expenditure. So if you look at short courses for any Black people, you can only claim 25% of your spend on a short course, because short courses fall under category F of the learning program matrix. Category G is your in-house training, and that is category G of the learning program matrix. And you can find the learning program matrix within the skills development scorecard. Accommodation, catering, course fees, traveling, and the cost to the measured entity of employing a skills development facilitator like Anton or a training manager cannot exceed more than 15% of the total value of the skills development. So again, let's use the 100 Rand. If you have 100 Rand that you have spent on training, and it is a short course, you know that 25% of the 100 Rand you will be able to claim towards your skills development contribution. And then the 15%, which would be 15 Rand, you wouldn't be able to exceed. Anton's fee would have to be 15 Rand. Of course, it can exceed the 15 Rand, but you would only be able to claim that particular portion, which must not exceed 15% of the total value of skills development. And just to, apologies to find my check on, just to illustrate what is a leviable amount. A leviable amount is total wages, total salaries, and bonuses. Okay, now 2.1.2 refers to learnerships, apprenticeships, and internships. and Black people participating in category B, C, and D programs as a percentage of total employees. Now, the target here is 5%. Okay? So you would get your head count, you would get your total head count, and you would say 5% of that total head count you must put that particular number on learnerships, apprenticeships, or internships, right? And that gives you the total score of 20. Let me just go back to this slide here. You'll see 3.5% target gives you 6 points under 2.1.1.1. 2.5% gives you 4 points under 2.1.1.2. And 3.3% gives you 4 points under 2.1.1.3. Okay? And then you get your 6 points for learnerships, apprenticeships, and internships. Right? That's a total of 20 points. Now, you get 5 bonus points if you absorb the learnerships. If you absorb the youth or the beneficiaries that you have actually put on those learnerships. Let's say you put 10 youth on a learnership, and at the end of the learnership you are not able to absorb all 10. Then you only absorb 5. That means that you will only get 2.5 points, because now you absorb half of the full target, the 100%. Okay? I hope I'm making sense. Total employees means all employees on your payroll, including learners on 12-month fixed-term contracts at the time of their application, right? I just want to stop here and go to Q&A. Have I got any questions? No open questions and in my chat. Okay, thank you. Right, now I'm moving on to sub-minimum and discounting. Sub-minimum and discounting principle. Now, there are priority sectors within the BBBEE Scorecard, and one of those priority sectors is skills development. And as skills development, you have to achieve a sub-minimum of 40% of the total weighting points. So remember I said there are 20 points, yeah, on the scorecard. So you have to achieve 40% of the 20 points in order for your organization not to be discounted. Now, what it means to be discounted is if you are a level 4 and you have not achieved 40% of the sub-minimum priority, your level will automatically drop to a level 5. So it's very important that you, when you are looking for your points, when you are doing your strategies for BBBEE and you are trying to understand exactly where you're falling short in terms of your points, always take into consideration the priority elements. Okay? And let me go here. Non-compliance to the threshold targets will result in the overall achieved BBBEE status level being discounted in accordance with paragraph 3.3 of statement 000. Key measurement principles. Now, I've just taken this out of the BBBEE, the skills development scorecard. It actually appears in the scorecard as I'm showing it to you here. It says the following criteria must be fulfilled in order for the measured entity to receive points on skills development element scorecard. Workplace skills plan, an annual training report and pivotal report, which are sector education and training authorities approved, and implementation of priority skills program generally and more specifically for Black people. Now, no double counting. So what double counting means, it's a form of fronting practices. You cannot count 2.1.1.1 and 2.1.1.2. So you have to make the two contributions separately. The contribution and the points for 2.1.1.1 belong to 2.1.1. The contributions for the points for 2.1.1.2 belong to 2.1.1.2. Okay. Now, the YES program is not skills development. The YES program sits on its own as a on-the-job work experience program that allows the beneficiaries of to gain experience in a working environment. And it gives a measured entity, which is the large business that is participating in BBBEE. It gives that large business an opportunity to increase their level by 1 or 2 points, depending on how many beneficiaries or YES candidates they commit to, right? So if you are a multinational company and you are not looking at the ownership element, which is quite important in order for your points, because it houses 25 points, then you can register to be part of the YES for Youth program, and you can automatically move up 1 or 2 levels as long as you fulfill the commitments that are made within the YES program. Now, because YES for Youth is not part of skills development, you can still receive points for the training of those YES candidates, but only under Category F and Category G of the learning program matrix. Now, remember, Category F of the learning program matrix is short courses, and Category G is in-house training, okay? And also remember, measured entities can only claim up to 25 of total expenditure when it comes to Category F and Category G. Now, this is what the learning program matrix looks like. It also gives a definition within the scorecard that allows for, for you to understand exactly what A is. For me, A is your bursaries. From A, you spend the whole year learning, and then you end up with the qualification. Category B, C, and D is your internships, learnerships, and apprenticeships. And here you can see there's a bit of theory, then practical, then you get a qualification. Category C, there is theory, and there is a long practical experience, and then professional registration. Okay, so you cannot achieve your professional registration if you do not complete your practicals, like your lawyers and your auditors, chartered accountants, etc. Category D is your learnerships, where it is now theory, practical. Now, we all know how learnerships operate. So they spend 70% of their learnership in the workplace learning, and 30% of their learnership doing theory, doing classes, understanding the modules, understanding what they've been learning in the workplace versus what they are learning in theory, and then putting that into practice. So only after they have done with their theory, their practical, then they end up with a qualification, which is a certificate saying that they are compliant. No, not compliant. Not yet competent. They are competent. So they end up with a qualification that says they are competent, right? And then, of course, you have your Category E, which is theory and practical, and then Category F and G, which is your short courses, seminars, conferences. Even this can be seen as a short course if the UK, the Singapore Chamber and the SA Chamber UK were actually charging you a fee to attend this webinar to learn about skills development, then you would be able to receive the certificate from the Singapore Chamber and the SA UK Chamber UK, and then you would be able to submit that certificate saying that you did attend. It was 5,000 Rand, and you can claim 25% of that 5,000 Rand because this is like a short course, right? Absorption. What does absorption mean, and how can I explain it in a better way so you can understand it? Absorption means a measure of the measured entity's ability to successfully secure a long-term contract of employment with the employee. Now, a long-term contract of employment means until the age of retirement. And not many of our businesses are able to do that, especially now in this day and age. Everybody gets 5-year fixed-term contracts, whether you're a MD or even the CFO. Everything has changed in the world. permanent contracts of employment are very rare and hard to find. But guess what? If that youth or learner goes and opens up a business and that business gives them a contract, that is also seen as absorption. But that business needs to be supported under your enterprise development spend the following year. Okay, so there are different ways to look at absorption. I'm just going to quickly read through a few of the points. The target for absorption is 5% of total head count. And I'm quickly going to go back to the scorecard so that I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Remember here, I said you get 5 bonus points if you achieve 100%, if you absorb 100% of the total number of learners that are on your learnership program, okay? If you only absorb half of those learners that are on your program, you only get 2.5%. So it just basically works on the percentage of learners that you are absorbing, okay? So the target is 5% of total headcount. Absorption is securing permanent employment for a Black person who was not permanently employed at the time of starting either category B, C, or D programs. Absorption is possible from temporary staff or from unemployed people by securing permanent employment or starting their own company. Absorption must happen at the end of a program. It cannot happen 1 or 2 or 3 months after. It must happen immediately at the end of a program, which means that it needs to have a strategy. Once you start your learnership, you must already start discussing your absorption strategy. And if you discuss your absorption strategy in advance, then you know exactly what type of learners you are wanting to recruit, because the recruitment process determines the success of your learnership and the success of your absorption at the end of your learnership, right? A tracking tool is needed and will assist you to prepare for verification. And it's so important. You cannot just leave this with the BEE consultant or the BEE manager or the HR manager. It must be looked at from a board perspective, right from the top, right from the CEO. Because when the BEE manager or the person responsible does not achieve those points, it's going to affect your sales. It's going to affect your ability to apply for tenders. It's going to affect your ability to be competitive in the South African market, because all companies that are participating in the South African economy look at your BEE scorecard. And coming into the country and doing business in South Africa, it is important to have a BEE scorecard. Now, mandatory training and training outside South Africa. Now, mandatory training is if someone in your organization, your employees, are doing a job where they need to have been trained to drive a forklift, for example, to go up and use the crane, for example, or even in the health space, there's mandatory training that needs to take place. That mandatory training is not counted towards skills development contributions because it is mandatory. You cannot have an employee there that doesn't know how to drive the forklift and then you just give him the keys and say, go drive the forklift. It's mandatory training. And the scorecard says that it is not counted, right? And it is a non-exhaustive list. There's no list that exists because in every single sector, there are various areas that employees need to be properly trained on and have mandatory training on. So please be alert to this. Do not count your mandatory training. It is a form of fronting practice within the skills development scorecard. Should you do that? Training outside the country must be in line with the learning program matrix under Annexure 300A and is only measurable if it meets the South African Qualification Authority SATWA requirements for recognition. So if you are sending your CEO on a course to Germany, make sure that you compare the course in Germany with the SATWA requirements, and then you can actually claim your BE points. And remember, you'll be able to claim accommodation, travel, the venue, costs, etc. So look at this seriously because it can, you are already doing it in your organizations. You are sending employees to Germany. You are sending employees outside of the country to train and to learn, but you're not capturing the correct data for it to be put into your skills development verification pack. Okay, these are legitimate recognizable training expenses for 2.1.1. Now remember, 2.1.1.1, shall I quickly go back to the scorecard and show you? 2.1.1.1 looks at your skills development expenditure for Black people, 3.5% with 6 points, 2.5% for bursaries with 4 points, and 3% for persons with disabilities for 4 points, right? So let's quickly go back down. I know I'm running out of time. Cost for training materials, these are the costs that are covered, right? So cost of training materials. So let's say we also have Anton online, who's going to be training me any minute. Anton and them have a training facility, and they would be able to offer you assistance in terms of the implementation of your skills development spend. And Anton would have training materials. He would have the cost of the trainers that he would put in his quotation. He would have the cost of training facilities if he was not using your office to do the training, and the course fees, accommodation and travel, administration costs such as the organization of training, including, where appropriate, the cost of the measured entity of employing a skills development facilitator or training manager, right? For bursaries, the legitimate recognizable expenses for bursaries under 2.1.1.2, bursaries, it's only paid direct Department of Higher Education and Training. This is a recommendation that I make. You know, you can pay the money to the student, the bursary student, but then you'll never know that money is going to actually be paid across to the university that they're supposed to be studying in. And to avoid any risk to your company, we recommend, that you pay the money directly to the Department of Higher Education. So the tertiary institution must be registered with the Department of Higher Education, and you will pay your money directly to that tertiary institution, like Wits University or the University of Johannesburg, etc. Okay? It can also cover the cost of books, the cost of catering, the cost of living, accommodation and travel, and a bursary managed fee of 15%. So let's say, for example, you want to hire Anton to manage your bursary for you. Then only 15% of the cost of Anton's cost can be claimable under BBBEE points. This is what is called a national qualification framework for bursaries. And I put a note here at the bottom. Anything that is above school level from NQF level 5 upwards can be considered for skills development bursary spend. Any mandatory training that is specific to a sector is not counted as skills development spend. So if you look here from NQF level 5, you have your higher certificate, advanced national certificates, your occupational certificates. Level 6 is your diploma, advanced certificates, occupational. Level 7 is your degrees, postgraduate certificates. 8 your honors, 9 your masters, and 10 your doctorate. So these are all the different levels that can be considered under bursary spend. Now, when you are looking at your bursaries, you must be careful. Do not just select any students, because if those students don't complete, there can be risk to your organization. Okay? So you must look at your student selection. You must prepare documentation, including bursary agreements. You look at the document authentication, making sure that the invoices are real, they're correct, money is going to the right place. Facilitate financial outlay. Regular communication with tertiary institutions and the students. Don't just assume the students are okay. Sometimes they don't have data. Sometimes they have to learn online, like during COVID. We have to send data from the bursary funding We have to send data to the students during that period to make sure that the students were actually able to go online and continue their learning. So regular communication with tertiary institutions and students, compilation of progress reports, and documentation pack for verification requirements. It looks pretty simple on my slides, but it is a load of work. And that is why someone like Anton is so important when it comes to the skills development management and what you actually outsource to your consultant, right? Now, I'm quickly going to touch on what is called the National Economically Active Population. These are statistics that are put in place by Statistics South Africa, which we refer to as Stats SA. And you can see that it includes white male and white female. Now, when you're working with broad-based Black economic empowerment, it's important to adjust. We have to adjust the nationally economically active population group and gender, right? Because remember, we are focusing on training of Black people, training of, enterprise development for small Black-owned businesses, community development for community members, and also management control, putting Black people in decision-making positions within companies. And then, of course, you have your ownership element. So if you look at this, you've got your African male sitting at 43.7% of the economically active population are African males. 35.6% of the economically active population are African female, right? Now, look at the white male. 5.1% of the economically active population in South Africa are white males. White female, 39.9%. A colored female, 4.1%. And Indian female is only 1% of the economically active population in South Africa. So once you take these figures and you calculate, there's about a 12-page document that you use to calculate your adjusted economically active population. And when you do this, please make sure that you are using the most updated EAP figures, which can be accessed via Stats SA, right? So what I've quickly done, and these are just examples, please, I have quickly done the adjusted economically active population, and I come up, now I have extracted the white male and the white female in order to get my universal, to get back to my universal 100% in terms of the African male, female, colored male, female, Indian male, and Indian female, right? So if you look at the 3.5%, which is on the scorecard here, let me go back up quickly. If you look at the 3.5% target, right? And it says, skills development expenditure on Black people as a percentage of leviable amount. We know our target is 3.5%. We know that it is 3.5% of our leviable amount. So this is the example that I want to show you quickly. I've done just a quick table for you so that I can help you understand how to calculate it. So I have a company called Pan Africa Exchange as an example. My leviable amount, my payroll, my leviable amount is 100,000 Rand, right? Oh, sorry, 1 million Rand. Yeah, 1 million Rand. I'm sounding like other people that we've seen on the news in the past. 1 million Rand, right? Of that 1 million Rand, I know that my target is 3.5%. So I say 3.5% of my 100 million gives me 3.5 million that I need to be spending on Black people, on training for Black people. Okay? Now, after I've looked at my economically active population, I see here African male is 48.2%, or 0.02%. I go back to my table and I say 48.2% of 3.5%. And it should give me 1.68 or 1.64, right? Then I say 1.64 of 3.5 million. And I now know that I have to spend 1.6 million on training of African male. I hope I am making sense. And you're welcome to contact me after if you need me to explain it better, right? Let's quickly do the colored male, right? Colored male, we know that our leviable amount is 100 million rand, right? We take 100 million rand, 3.5% of 100 million rand gives us 3.5 million, right? We then go to our adjusted economically active population and we look at colored male, which is the gray, this one here, and we say 5.27%. You get the adjusted amount for the male. We say 5.725% of 3.5%, right? So you take 5.27% of your target under 2.1.1.1, remember? And then from your target, you get 0.20%. You say 0.20% of 3.5 million. And that will give you the total amount that you should be spending on colored male. Okay. And then it's the same for bursaries. You take your adjusted economically active population. You know your target for bursaries. If you go back to the scorecard quickly, oopsie. There's the scorecard here. It shows you bursaries. Your target is 2.5% and you get your 4 points, right? So let's go back to our economically active population. We've already established our adjusted economically active population, and we know that African male is 48.02%. So we say 48.02% of 2.5% should give me 1.18%. And if I say 1.18% of 2.5 million, it should give me 1.8 that I should be spending on African male. Okay, so that's basically everything I have for you under skills development. I'm just going to invite Anton to have a quick discussion with me. Okay, well, welcome. I just want to give you a few minutes just to basically introduce yourself, tell our audience who you are, what you do, as well as Shanae. You can also unmute Shanae. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Arlene, thank you for the opportunity. So by a quick introduction on our side, my name is Anton Visser and I'm the Group COO for HA Business School. That is a accredited training company here in South Africa. And then after Unpacking Indonesia is our head of business development in the country, also from SA Business.
Thank you so much and welcome. I just wanted to have a quick with you and ask you maybe, do you have any questions that you'd like to pose to me as well? But in terms of your learnerships and your the different types of learnerships that we can actually put people on in South Africa, could you possibly elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, 100%. So I think there's a vast variety of learnerships that covers every aspect within any business. Taking some examples, I think the most generic ones would be to specifically look at generic management, which is always needed in every business, and business administration. There's quite a few NQF levels that you can focus on business administration and generic management. Then, Arlene, it actually it does get a bit more detail according to the specific industry that the company is in. You can look at learnerships like contact center, which is more or less call centers is the better word that everybody knows. There's definitely a lot of opportunities in the wholesale and retail space, in the agricultural space, in the IT space. So it covers everything. There's really an opportunity where companies are looking to upskilling within their industry there will be something particular that we can focus on for them.
Thank you, Anton. The whole year of the learnership program means that you would be actually recruiting learners that can add value to the HR pipeline of the organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. So I think it's a big advantage within your organization. As we discussed, the learners will go on a 12-month fixed-term contract doing the learnership. And as you mentioned, a very important part of a learnership is workplace experience. So when the learners are hosted within the unemployed learners are hosted in your environment, and they're currently gaining the workplace experience in your business, it really assists companies to fast track and identify learners to move into permanent positions within their company.
Okay. Now, besides the scoring, are companies incentivized in other ways to absorb learners or on a learnership?
Yeah.
And go ahead, Anton.
Yeah, so I think, Arlene, the question posed there is definitely, we spoke about the learnership and the difference it makes within your business, that you're getting a good pool of candidates that comes through in your business. It helps with workload in the business with taking on the extra learners over the 12 months, so it definitely helps in that sense. But I think then there's also some tax incentives that comes into play here. I'm going to refer to the 12H. So you get tax incentives when registering the learners, and then there's another tax incentive when the learnership is completed, and you submit that with your half year and then your full year submissions that you can then claim back these tax incentives. The other part as well is that because the learners are between the age of 18 and 28 and previously unemployed, and starting to work in your organization, and when they work in your organization and they're not hosted with someone else. So it's very important to note that only when they work in your organization and contributing towards your organization, you can also apply for employment tax incentives, which is an amount of about 1,500 Rand per individual per month over the 12 months that you can claim back. So I think that's over and above the benefits. That's the two tax incentives so that you can gain.
Another question that I have for you, Anton, that I'd just like to elaborate a little bit on is the absorption. What qualifies as permanent employment? How long must the contract continue for?
So, Arlene, I think this is a very important point to talk about, right? So first of all, when you absorb the learners into, it must be the keyword here is full-time employment. So they cannot go onto a fixed-term contract for another 12 months. That's not seen as permanent employment. It must be a permanent employment contract that the learner gets. The second thing is that's quite important is that learners can't just be absorbed into the business and retrenched after 30 or 60 days, right? So they are there appointed in your business to fulfill their role, and you are in the rule of thumb there, it's indefinitely, right? So they absorbed in your business to take over a role in the business, notwithstanding any labor relations issues. So what we're not saying that they're always going to be employed, but as soon as they sign that permanent contract, any labor laws of South Africa kicks in. So if a learner gets dismissed or absconded or going through any disciplinary action and get dismissed at the end of the day, you won't be impacted because the labor law supersedes then the rule of thumb. The only thing that there really is that you can't absorb them and retrench them 30 days later.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And just in terms of the SETAs that you are accredited with, would you mind just elaborating on that so that we understand?
Yeah, so in SA Business School, our main SETA is the services SETA, but we have accreditation with all the SETAs in South Africa. Naming a few will be the WNR SETA, we have the IT SETA, Facet SETA, So we are aligned with all of them. We've registered and we've got we've got about 16 accreditations in SA Business School, and we've got affiliation with other training providers around the country as well.
Thank you so much, Anton. Okay, so for the purpose of BBBEE, Black is defined as colored, African, and Indian. They need to be citizens of South Africa. And if they are not citizens of South Africa or not born in South Africa, then they have to have received their naturalization before 1994. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And a question, do Chinese people, not Chinese, Asian? Well, it's mainly China, because we know that it's colored, African, and Indian that are in the BBBEE. But when we have the Chinese nationalists that come through or have been here for a while that have also in turn claimed BBBEE redress, which is what we call being able to qualify for BBBEE. It's my understanding that for the learners, when you're recruiting, at least one of their parents must be born in South Africa. If a Zimbabwean couple come through and they get their work permit and their child is born in South Africa, that child does not qualify for redress. At least one of their parents must be born in South Africa.
That's good.
That child can qualify for citizenship if their grandfather was born here or their grandmother was born here, which is citizenship through descent. But at the end of the day, the code is clear that at least one of your parents must be born in South Africa for you to be able to qualify for redress. So when you see that, when you are recruiting and you see that in that South African ID document, and under it says place of birth, it says South African citizen at the top, then it says place of birth, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Malawi. You have to take it further as the person who is recruiting those learners and ask them for proof or evidence of how they are a citizen of South Africa. And that's where it becomes a little tricky. So you might as well just look for CVs of Black South Africans that are actually in South Africa.
Yeah.
So just be careful of that when you do your recruiting process. Ask them.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
The actual company paying for the learnership can actually be at risk because then their contribution will not be counted towards skills development spend because it's not, the learner didn't actually qualify.
No, definitely. And SA Business School can really assist as well with that recruiting and making sure when the registrations happen at all the CJAs, that all the paperwork is correct and that you don't get a surprise when it becomes verification stages that some of the learners does not qualify and the spend does not qualify.
Can I ask you one idea? What kind of challenges do you come across when you are, working with the youth that are on these learnership programs? Do you have absenteeism? Do they abscond? Do you have challenges with code of conduct and corporate governance?
Arlene, at the end of the day, we must all remember we're working with normal people. I don't think wherever you go, it's any different. But in line with what we do at SA Business Schools, we kind of take over the hassle of the HR, like you said, like the absenteeism and all of those issues, and we really handle that on behalf of the clients. We do, nourish the environment that the learners are in because we do understand that they have to complete successfully. We have to support them because it's their first year of work for some of them. So it is a lot of comfort in the first year, a lot of love and attention and paying attention to detail and advising them what is the correct way of working. And when they do go into permanent employment, we are kind of like the stepping stone in terms of what is right and wrong. So the guidance is there in terms of the HR compliance. We have to obviously inform them of what is the right way to conduct themselves in business and to be the best version and the best product of themselves when they go out for permanent employment. So yes, we do have issues, but I think wherever you go, you're going to have the issues. It's just how you obviously nurture the environments. And yes, the learners go through a lot of advice, and, we really, really do try and teach them the correct ways of doing things. And we have like a little work readiness program that we run them through them, so that whenever they get employed at the end of the day, be it with us or with the actual employer sponsoring the learnership, that they'd obviously carry that skills over to be a successful employee at the end of the day.
Do you ever come across a learner that is on more than one learnership at a time? And how do you manage that situation?
So yes, there is the naughty learners. We do get the learners that obviously do ride the learnership journey. But yeah, I think if the training provider at the beginning of the learnership does their correct due diligence in terms of the learner. So we have a system where you can check on the seat side to see if they have been previously loaded onto a learnership or actually actively participating in a learnership, you should be okay. But if you're not doing your due diligence as a training provider, you're going to bump your head and having to explain to the client that you've taken a learner that's already registered. Yeah, but it also in partnership with the CETAs, they don't really always work with us as training providers. Sometimes I feel they work against us as providers because they don't. The systems might not always correlate, or they're not up to date with the current learnerships that are running. So that does create some confusion, but we always have good relationships and we try and obviously alleviate the issues there.
Well, thank you so much, Anton and Shanae. I'd now like to thank all the delegates for attending our session today. We hope you found it informative. And Keridyn, thank you so much for coming together and joining us at the SA Chamber UK for this wonderful webinar. And I hope you all found it interesting, and I wish we had more time to actually get more questions from the floor, because I'm so passionate and excited skills development as an element and how it can actually impact our scarce skills that we have in South Africa. Enjoy the week, everybody. Bye. The weekend. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye. Bye.